Noah Blackwood wasn't a man you defied. He was the alpha king of the Northern Territories, the apex predator whose bloodline traced back to the first pack. His word could end wars. His gaze could break the strongest wolf. But his greatest weakness wasn't a rival alpha or the hunter's council. It was his 2-year-old daughter, Luna. She had never made a sound. Not a cry, not a laugh, not a single word. Pack healers called it soul trauma, something so devastating it had locked her wolf and her voice away. That silence had remained unbroken for 731 days. Until a Thursday night at the Moonstone estate when the most dangerous werewolf alive froze in absolute terror because for the first time in her life, his daughter spoke. She didn't reach for her father. She pointed a trembling hand at a waitress and whispered a word that would threaten to tear apart everything Noah thought he knew.
Mama.
Before we continue, I've noticed that many of you enjoy watching my videos but haven't subscribed yet. Please help support and grow this channel by liking the video, dropping a comment, and subscribing if you enjoy the stories. Thank you so much, and God bless you. Now, let's get back to the story. The storm was rolling in from the north, dark clouds pressing against the floor-to-ceiling windows of Moonstone Estate, the most exclusive restaurant in Ashford. This wasn't a place where people came just to eat. It was where pack alliances were forged, territorial disputes were settled, and sometimes where rivals were quietly eliminated over a glass of aged whiskey. Vera Thorne adjusted her apron in the back kitchen, her hands shaking slightly as another migraine threatened to split her skull. She was 24 with blue-gray eyes that held shadows too deep for someone her age. She had only been working at Moonstone for 6 weeks. It was a lucky break, or so she'd thought. The tips were good enough to keep her stocked on the medication that made the nightmares bearable, and that was all that mattered. Thorne, snap out of it, hissed Marcus, the head server, a man whose cologne couldn't quite mask the scent of nervous sweat. Sovereign room is occupied tonight. Do not, and I repeat, do not look directly at the child unless spoken to. Do not make sudden movements. Do not breathe louder than necessary. Vera frowned, sliding a wine bottle into an ice bucket. Who is it? The governor? Marcus's face went bloodless.
Worse.
Alpha King Blackwood. The kitchen went deadly silent. The sous chef stopped plating. Even the dishwasher seemed to freeze mid-scrub. Everyone in the Northern Territories knew the name. Noah Blackwood wasn't just an alpha. He was the alpha, ruler of 12 packs, a coalition that had ended centuries of territorial warfare through sheer dominance. He was a widower, famous for his ruthlessness toward enemies and his suffocating isolation. "I'll take the table," Vera whispered, though every survival instinct screamed to walk out the back door. She needed the hazard pay bonus. She needed the pills. She needed to not think about the phantom ache in her abdomen that flared up at random moments, the feeling that something precious had been ripped from her body 2 years ago. She walked through the service corridor. The atmosphere had shifted. The usual murmur of conversation had dropped to hushed tones. Through the carved oak doors of the sovereign room, the private chamber with soundproof walls used for pack business, she could feel the weight of supernatural power pressing against her sternum. At the head of the table sat a man who looked like he'd been carved from obsidian and war. Noah Blackwood was 33, wearing a black suit that seemed to absorb light. He had dark hair that touched his collar, predator-sharp eyes the color of amber, and geometric tattoos spiraling up his neck, pack marks that declared his bloodline. But it wasn't the man that made Vera's breath catch. It was the child. Sitting in a custom high chair next to him was a little girl, perhaps 2 years old. She had curls the color of spun gold and large, haunting gray-blue eyes that looked too solemn for her face. She was clutching a worn velvet rabbit, its ear nearly threadbare. This was Luna Blackwood, the silent princess. Rumors said she hadn't spoken a word since birth, that pack healers had performed every ritual and found nothing physically wrong. Vera approached the table, wine bottle in hand, her heart hammering against her ribs in a rhythm that felt too fast, too desperate. "Good evening, Alpha," she said, her voice steadier than her hands. "Red or white this evening?" Noah didn't look up from the document he was reviewing.
Red. Decant it.
"And warm milk for the child. Not hot. Warm." "Of course." As Vera reached across to set the wine glass on the table, her sleeve rode up slightly. The faint scent of her skin drifted across the space, vanilla and lavender. Cheap drugstore soap mixed with something deeper, something that smelled like pine forests and wild moonlight. Noah's entire body went rigid. His head snapped up, amber eyes locking onto hers with an intensity that made her knees weak. For a heartbeat, she saw something flicker in his gaze. Recognition, shock, pain, before it was crushed beneath cold authority. "Be quick," he commanded, but his voice had roughened. Vera nodded and turned to the child, forcing warmth into her voice despite the father's icy demeanor. "And for you, sweetheart." The little girl, Luna, slowly lifted her head. When Luna's eyes met Vera's, the world fractured. Vera felt a physical jolt, like lightning striking through her chest and branching out to every nerve ending. It was a sensation she hadn't felt in 2 years, not since the day she'd woken in a clinic bed to a grim-faced doctor saying, "I'm so sorry, there were complications." That phantom ache in her womb flared up, sudden and violent, accompanied by a memory that couldn't be a memory. Golden curls, impossibly tiny fingers wrapped around her thumb, the weight of a newborn against her chest. Luna dropped her velvet rabbit. It hit the floor with a soft thud. The sovereign room was already quiet, but the silence at the Alpha King's table became suffocating. The little girl's mouth opened. Her bottom lip trembled. Tears began pooling in those gray-blue eyes that were somehow, impossibly, the same shade as Vera's. No one noticed immediately. He leaned forward, his carefully controlled expression cracking.
Luna.
"Tesoro, what's wrong? Are you hurt?" Luna ignored her father completely. She reached out her small, chubby hands toward the waitress, her fingers grasping desperately at Vera's red shirt. Vera stood frozen, the wine bottle trembling in her grip. She couldn't move, couldn't breathe. Every rational thought was drowned out by an overwhelming, illogical urge to drop everything and pull this child into her arms, to run somewhere safe and never let go. Then it happened. The sound was small, broken, rusty, like a voice that had been locked away for so long it had almost forgotten how to work.
Ma.
Noah's wine glass shattered in his grip. Crystal and Bordeaux exploded across the table. His eyes flashed gold, pure alpha wolf rising to the surface, as his head whipped from his daughter to the waitress. Luna's hands tightened on Vera's shirt. The child's voice came again, stronger this time, more insistent.
Mama.
"Mama, don't go." Vera's vision blurred. The room tilted. She was drowning in a sudden flood of impossible feelings, maternal instinct so fierce it felt like claws raking through her chest, recognition that defied logic, and beneath it all, a howl building in her throat that she didn't understand because humans didn't howl. Noah rose to his feet, chair scraping back. His hand moved, not toward a weapon, but toward Luna, protective and panicked. Every wolf instinct in his body was screaming that this was impossible. His daughter hadn't spoken in 731 days.
Pack bonds didn't work like this.
Recognition didn't happen between strangers. But Luna was speaking, and she was calling this haunted-eyed waitress mother. The sovereign room doors burst open. Security flooded in, responding to their alpha's distress. Marcus stood in the doorway, face white as death. "Nobody leaves," Noah commanded, his voice dropping to the alpha tone that compelled obedience. His amber eyes never left Vera's face. "Lock down the estate. Call Dr. Sable." And someone, his voice cracked, just for a moment. Someone tell me what the hell is happening to my daughter. Luna pressed her face against Vera's stomach, still whispering the word over and over like a prayer, like a truth that had been buried too long.
Mama, mama, mama.
And somewhere deep in Vera's chest, something ancient and wild and long dormant stirred for the first time in 2 years, responding to a call she didn't understand but felt in her very bones. Mine, it whispered. My daughter. My pack.
Mine.
The storm outside broke. Thunder shook the windows. And in the sovereign room of Moonstone Estate, the impossible had finally happened, setting in motion a chain of events that would either unite or destroy the Northern Territories forever. The SUV's tinted windows reflected nothing but darkness as it pulled through the iron gates of the Blackwood estate. Vera sat rigid in the back seat, flanked by 2 guards whose silence felt more threatening than any words. Noah drove, his jaw set, one hand on the wheel and the other holding his phone to his ear as he spoke in clipped tones about securing the perimeter and no one talks to the press. This wasn't an invitation. This was a kidnapping dressed in expensive suits and pack authority. The estate sprawled across what had to be 50 acres, a stone fortress that looked like it had been transplanted from some European kingdom, complete with guard towers and wolves patrolling the tree line. Not dogs. Actual wolves. Pack members on security rotation, their eyes glowing amber in the darkness as the vehicle passed. Vera was escorted through marble halls lined with oil paintings of severe-looking men and women, all with the same predatory eyes. The interrogation room, because that's exactly what it was, despite the leather chairs and mahogany desk, had no windows and only one door. Noah closed it behind them with a sound like a tomb ceiling.
Seat.
It wasn't a request. Vera sat, her hands twisted in her lap. The migraine that had been threatening all evening was now a vice grip around her skull. Noah remained standing, arms crossed, backlit by the single overhead light in a way that made him look even more like something carved from violence and stone. Who sent you? No one sent me. I applied for a job. What pack are you from? I'm not. I don't know what you're talking about. How did you make my daughter speak? His voice dropped to something barely human, a growl that vibrated in her chest. What kind of magic are you using? I'm human, Vera said, her voice cracking.
I'm nobody.
I'm just a waitress with a headache and student debt, and I don't understand any of this. Your daughter looked at me, and I felt. She stopped, pressing her palms against her eyes. I felt like I knew her, like I'd lost something and she was, God, this sounds insane. Noah's expression didn't soften, but something flickered behind his eyes. His wolf was doing something it had never done before, whining, pressing against his control, wanting to protect this woman instead of interrogate her. It made no sense. Threats were eliminated. Strangers were assessed. But every instinct screamed that she wasn't a threat, that she was. Vera's eyes rolled back. Her body went rigid, convulsing, and she pitched forward out of the chair. Noah moved on pure instinct, catching her before her head could crack against the floor. The moment his hands touched her arms, electricity shot through him. Not painful, but right, like something clicking into place after being broken for years. No, please. Vera was gasping, her eyes unfocused, looking at something only she could see. Where's my baby? She's crying. I can hear her crying. Don't take her. Please don't. The procedure is complete. The procedure is. Her scream tore through the room, raw and animal. Get Dr. Sable.
Now.
Noah barked at the door. He lowered Vera to the floor, cradling her head, and his wolf keened, the sound of a mate recognizing another mate, impossible and undeniable. Her scent wrapped around him, vanilla and lavender, and underneath it, wild moonlight and pine.
Pack.
His pack. The seizure lasted 90 seconds. When Vera's eyes finally focused, She was staring up at him with tears streaming down her face. "I had a baby," she whispered. "I know I did. They told me she died, but I heard her crying and She pressed a fist against her mouth, shaking. A phone buzzed. Noah answered it one-handed, still holding Vera steady. "What?" "Alpha, the child won't stop screaming. She's going to hurt herself. We can't calm her down." Noah's eyes met Vera's. "Bring her to the West Wing. And call Dr. Sable. Tell her it's an emergency." 30 minutes later, Luna was placed in Vera's arms, and the screaming stopped instantly. The child burrowed into Vera's chest, hiccuping, her small fists clutching Vera's shirt like she'd drown without it. Vera began humming without thinking, rocking slowly, and Luna's breathing evened out into sleep. Noah stood in the doorway, watching this impossible scene, a stranger soothing his daughter with the ease of someone who'd done it 1,000 times before. Something in his chest cracked open, a wall he'd built 2 years ago when Celine died, when Luna stopped speaking, when he'd locked everything soft away to survive. When Vera looked up at him, exhausted and confused, she reached out instinctively, her hand brushing his. The spark that passed between them wasn't static. It was recognition. Ancient. Undeniable. Both of them gasped and pulled back. "You'll stay here," Noah said roughly, "until we figure out what this is." Vera nodded, still holding Luna. She didn't have the strength to argue. And somewhere deep down, she didn't want to leave. Dr. Sable arrived at dawn, a silver-haired woman with eyes that had seen centuries. She spent 3 hours examining Vera in the estate's medical wing while Noah paced outside like a caged animal and Luna refused to leave Vera's side. When the healer finally emerged, her face was grim. "Alpha, we need to speak privately. Say it here." Dr. Sable glanced at Vera, who sat pale and trembling on the examination table, then back to Noah. "This is sophisticated spellwork woven directly into her neural pathways. Memory block magic designed specifically to suppress werewolf identity. Whoever did this wanted her to believe she was human. Wanted her wolf locked away so deep it might never surface." The room tilted. Vera gripped the edge of the table. "That's impossible. I can't be." "You are," Dr. Sable said gently. "Your wolf is dormant, but it's there. I can feel it." Noah's voice came out deadly quiet. "How long has this been active?" "Approximately 2 years. Maybe longer. I want every supernatural medical facility investigated. Birth records. Patient files. Everything from 2 years ago." Noah turned to Marcus, who'd been standing silently in the corner. "Handle it personally. I want answers by tonight." Marcus bowed his head, but not before Vera caught something in his expression, a flicker of calculation that made her stomach turn. "Of course, Alpha." Over the next 12 hours, Vera's memories returned in violent waves that left her gasping and shaking. Dr. Sable stayed with her through each episode, holding her steady as the past tore through the artificial walls in her mind. She remembered being pregnant, alone, scared, going to Silvermoon Clinic because they advertised sliding scale fees for single mothers. She remembered labor, 36 hours of agony that ended with a baby's cry, golden curls damp against a tiny skull, impossibly perfect fingers wrapping around her thumb. She remembered holding her daughter for maybe 10 minutes before doctors rushed in, saying there were complications, taking the baby just for a moment for tests. Then her own voice screaming, "She's crying. I can hear her crying. Give her back." The doctor's face, masked and cold. "I'm so sorry. She didn't survive." But Vera could hear her baby crying down the hall, could hear it even as someone jabbed a needle in her arm, even as darkness swallowed everything. She woke 3 days later in a human hospital with no memory of being pregnant at all. Noah stood rigid as Marcus delivered his findings that evening, a tablet in hand displaying medical records that made Noah's blood run cold. Silvermoon Clinic. 2 years ago. Same night. Patient 1. Vera Thorne. Delivered healthy female infant. Patient 2. Celine Blackwood. Stillborn female infant. Both mothers sedated. Both files flagged with the same doctor's signature, Dr. Edmund Morrison. Run the DNA test, Noah said, his voice empty. Luna and Vera.
Now.
The results came back in 2 hours. Dr. Sable handed Noah the report without a word. Luna was Vera's biological daughter. The child he'd raised for 2 years, loved more than his own life, wasn't his blood. Celine's baby had died, and somehow, they'd given her Vera's living child instead. Noah sank into a chair, the paper crumpling in his fist. His wolf howled in anguish and rage, and something fiercer. Mine. Always mine.
Daughter.
Pack. She's mine, he said hoarsely. Biology doesn't matter. She's mine. Vera stood in the doorway, tears streaming down her face, joy and grief and fury warring in her expression. She's ours, she whispered. She's been ours this whole time. Luna toddled between them, clutching her rabbit, looking from one parent to the other with those solemn gray-blue eyes. Marcus cleared his throat. Alpha, there's more. Dr. Morrison died 3 months ago. Officially ruled an accident, but I found his personal effects, including this. He handed over a leather journal. Noah opened it. The words blurred and sharpened into focus like a knife. Payment received from MS for procedure. Baby switch complete. Memory wipe successful. Omega bloodline female neutralized. Alpha's true mate bond prevented. The king must never know. If bond completes, his power becomes absolute. MS. Marcus Steele. Noah's head snapped up, but Marcus was already gone, slipped out during the revelation, disappeared into the night. The wolf inside Noah erupted with a roar that shook the windows. His most trusted advisor had orchestrated this horror before Noah even knew Vera existed. Lock down the estate, Noah snarled. Find him. And someone tell me what the hell an Omega bloodline is, and why Marcus was willing to destroy lives to keep me from it. Marcus returned to the estate 3 hours later, composed and efficient, carrying files on Dr. Morrison's death. Noah received him in his private study, whiskey poured, posture relaxed, every inch the alpha who trusted his second-in-command. I've compiled everything on Morrison, Marcus said, sliding the folder across the desk. His clinic had several malpractice complaints, financial troubles. The accident was likely suicide made to look accidental. Convenient. Noah took a slow sip. Tell me, what do you know about Omega bloodlines? For just a fraction of a second, Marcus's pupils dilated. His heartbeat spiked. Then his expression smoothed into polite confusion. Omega bloodlines? Isn't that ancient mythology? Perhaps. Noah set down his glass. Continue investigating Morrison. I want to know everyone he worked with. When Marcus left, Noah's carefully maintained calm shattered. His fists slammed into the desk hard enough to crack the wood. But he couldn't arrest Marcus, not yet. Intelligence suggested 4 allied alphas were positioned too close to the estate, waiting. Arrest Marcus now, and civil war would erupt within hours. Better to draw him out. Force him to act on ground Noah controlled. In the medical wing, Vera screamed. Noah ran, taking stairs 3 at a time, and found her convulsing on the floor while Dr. Sable held her steady. Luna cried in the corner, and Noah scooped his daughter up, but his eyes never left Vera. What's happening? Her wolf is trying to surface, Dr. Sable said grimly. 2 years of suppressants don't fade easily. Her body is fighting itself. Vera's eyes snapped open, not gray-blue, but molten gold. Then they flickered back. She gasped, clawing at her own arms. It hurts. God, it hurts. Noah handed Luna to a guard and knelt beside Vera, taking her hands. The moment they touched, warmth flooded through both of them, his alpha strength flowing into her, stabilizing the violent transition.
Breathe. I've got you.
The seizures came in waves over the next 2 days. Each time, Noah stayed, holding her through the pain while the mate bond grew stronger between them. He felt her fear, her rage, her desperate love for Luna. And she felt his, the protective fury, the guilt that he hadn't known, the certainty that she was his in ways that transcended logic. Vera's wolf emerged in fragments. Her eyes flashed gold more frequently. Her hearing sharpened until she could track conversations 3 rooms away. When Luna scraped her knee, Vera's hand glowed faintly, and the wound closed. "You're not just any werewolf," Dr. Sable said quietly, watching Vera cradle Luna. "You're an omega. They appear once every century, maybe. Your bloodline can heal soul damage, break curses, and amplify your true mate's power exponentially. An alpha king bonded to an omega mate would be unstoppable. United territories. Absolute authority. No alpha could challenge him." Vera's head snapped up. "That's why Marcus wanted me destroyed." Yes. Noah's investigation confirmed what he'd suspected. 4 allied alphas had moved their packs closer to Blackwood territory over the past month. Communications intercepted suggested they were waiting for a signal. Marcus's signal. The plan crystallized with brutal clarity. Kill Noah during the blood moon ceremony, eliminate Vera as a threat to pack stability, and take the throne with 4 alphas backing him. Noah made his countermove. "Send word to all packs," he told his communications team. "Blood moon ceremony in 3 days. I'm formally claiming Vera Thorne as my mate and recognizing her as Luna's mother." The announcement forced Marcus's hand. Act during the ceremony or lose the advantage forever. That night, Noah found Vera in the gardens with Luna asleep against her shoulder. "You don't have to do this," he said quietly. "I can send you somewhere safe. And spend the rest of my life without my daughter?" "Without." She stopped, meeting his eyes. The mate bond hummed between them, incomplete but powerful enough that she could feel his emotions like her own. Fierce protectiveness, longing, fear of losing her before he'd truly found her. "Say it," Noah said, stepping closer. "Without you." Vera's hand found his, and the electric pull intensified. "I remember everything now. The pregnancy, the birth, them stealing her. But I also remember something else, feeling like part of my soul was missing. Not just Luna. Something else I'd lost and didn't know to look for." Noah's thumb traced her wrist, feeling her pulse hammer. "You are my true mate. I don't care what Marcus planned or why. You're mine. Luna is ours. And in 3 days, I'm going to make sure the entire supernatural world knows it." The partial bond snapped into place between them, not complete without the ceremony, but strong enough that their wolves recognized each other fully. Vera gasped as Noah's emotions flooded through her. Absolute certainty, possessive need, love so fierce it felt like claws around her heart. "I remember everything," Vera whispered, rising on her toes. "And I'm not running." When their lips met, the estate's lights flickered. Somewhere in the woods, wolves howled. And Marcus, listening to the reports from his spies, smiled coldly. "Perfect," he told his allied alphas. "We kill all 3 at once." The ritual ground was ancient, a massive clearing deep in the forest where the first pack had once gathered beneath stars that remembered when humans still feared the dark. Tonight, hundreds of werewolves from all 12 territories filled the space, their eyes reflecting the rising blood moon like scattered embers. The air thrummed with power and tension, sacred and dangerous in equal measure. Vera stood at the clearing's edge in ceremonial robes of deep crimson and silver, her hair braided with threads of moonstone. She looked every inch an alpha queen, regal, fierce, transformed. But Noah could feel through their partial bond how vulnerable she truly was. Her wolf had only partially awakened, still clawing its way through 2 years of suppressants. She was strong, but not yet whole. Luna wore white with golden flowers woven through her curls, looking like the cherished daughter she was, finally being claimed by both parents publicly. She held Vera's hand on one side, Noah's on the other, solemn and quiet. Noah's voice carried across the clearing as he spoke the ancient words, the ritual language that had bound mates for millennia. I, Noah Blackwood, Alpha King of the Northern Territories, claim Vera Thorne as my true mate. Blood to blood.
Soul to soul.
Before the moon and before my pack, I recognize her as Luna's mother and my equal in all things. The response was fractured. Half the gathered wolves howled approval, their voices rising to the crimson moon. The other half remained silent, Marcus's allies, positioned strategically throughout the crowd. Any wolf may challenge the alpha's choice before the bond completes, Noah continued, the words required by pack law. Speak now or hold your peace forever. Marcus stepped forward from the shadows. He wore formal black, his face calm and righteous. I challenge Alpha Noah Blackwood's right to rule and his choice of mate. The clearing went deathly silent. The Alpha has been compromised by an outsider whose origins are suspect. Marcus's voice rang clear. His judgment is clouded. His leadership threatens our stability. I invoke trial by combat for the right to rule. For Alphas moved to stand beside Marcus, warriors from the territories that bordered Blackwood land, their postures aggressive. This was coordinated.
Planned.
Noah had expected this. He remained perfectly still, one hand on Luna's shoulder. I accept your challenge, Marcus. Trial by combat. Name your terms. Not yet. Marcus smiled, cold and calculated. First, prove your mate is worthy. Prove she can protect what matters most. He raised his hand. 6 wolves dragged Dr. Sable into the clearing, silver chains around her wrists, a blade pressed to her throat. The healer lives if Luna is brought here to the ritual circle, Marcus said. Away from your guards. Away from protection. Show us that your mate can defend your daughter properly. Or admit she's too weak to be Alpha Queen, and I'll spare the old woman's life. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Threatening a healer was forbidden, sacred law broken in front of witnesses. But Noah was trapped. Refuse and Dr. Sable dies. Refuse and the ceremony is invalidated. Refuse and Marcus claims Noah put his daughter above pack law. Bring Luna forward, Noah said, his voice tight. Vera's hand tightened on Luna's. Through the bond, Noah felt her terror and her fury in equal measure. She knew this was the trap. They walked Luna to the center of the ritual circle, where the blood moon's light fell brightest. The moment they crossed into the open space, Marcus's wolves moved. They came from 6 directions at once, coordinated, fast, silver blades flashing. Dr. Sable screamed a warning, but it was already too late. Marcus himself lunged through the chaos and grabbed Luna, ripping her from Vera's arms with brutal efficiency. The child's screams split the night. He raised the ceremonial silver blade, the one meant for binding mates, now poised above a child's heart. A king's power dies with his heir, Marcus snarled, his eyes wild with triumph. And you, Noah, will watch your bloodline end before you die yourself. Chaos erupted. Wolves shifted mid-leap, massive forms colliding. Noah's loyal guards charged forward, but Marcus's allies blocked them. The clearing became a battlefield in seconds, fur and fangs and blood under the crimson moon.
Luna sobbed, reaching desperately toward Vera. Mama, Manga.
Vera stood frozen for one heartbeat, her partially awakened wolf screaming inside her, clawing to break free. And then something inside her shattered. The suppressants. The memory blocks. The artificial walls that had kept her wolf caged for 2 years. They exploded outward in a wave of golden light. Vera's scream became a howl. Her eyes flashed pure molten gold, and stayed that way. And the Omega Wolf, dormant for so long, everyone thought it might never surface, finally came home. Marcus's blade descended in a silver arc toward Luna's heart. Vera's scream tore through the night. Not a human sound, not even a wolf's howl, but something older and more primal.
No.
The transformation was instant, not the gradual shift most werewolves experienced, but an explosion of ancient power that had been caged too long. Golden light erupted from Vera's body as her Omega Wolf finally broke free. She shifted mid-stride, massive, silver-white with eyes like molten gold, radiating power so intense that wolves nearest her stumbled back. She moved with preternatural speed, faster than Marcus could track, faster than physics should allow. Vera's jaws closed around Marcus's wrist. The blade fell, slicing her shoulder instead of Luna's chest, and she ripped the child from his grasp with a snarl that made the trees shake. Dr. Sable had broken free of her captors in the chaos. Vera shifted back to human form just long enough to thrust Luna into the healer's arms. Protect her. I end this. Then she shifted again, and the battle truly began. Noah and Vera moved together like they'd fought side by side for centuries instead of days. The mate bond amplified both, his alpha dominance surging through her, her omega healing flooding through him. When Marcus's ally raked claws across Noah's ribs, golden light flared, and the wounds closed before blood could spill. When two wolves tried to flank Vera, Noah was there, guarding her back with lethal precision. The assembled pack watched in awe. True mate bonds were rare enough. But an alpha king bonded to an omega? The power radiating from them was legendary, the kind of pairing that ended wars and united territories. Marcus's allies began to falter. This wasn't the weak, broken woman they'd expected. This was an omega in full power, and she fought with the fury of a mother protecting her young. 3 allied alphas dropped to their knees in submission, throats bared. The 4th fled into the forest. Marcus stood alone, breathing hard, and his eyes went wild with desperation. He shifted into his wolf form, massive and black, battle-scarred and vicious, and lunged not at Noah or Vera, but toward where Dr. Sable held Luna. Noah intercepted, but Marcus was strong, an experienced fighter who'd trained for decades. They collided midair, a tangle of fur and fangs. Vera didn't need to reach them physically. Her omega power uncoiled like a living thing, ancient magic that didn't fight, but commanded. She locked eyes with Marcus's wolf and pushed. The shift reversal was instantaneous. Marcus's wolf form collapsed inward, forced back into human shape against his will. He landed naked and vulnerable, sprawled in the dirt, his momentum shattered. Noah's strike was clean and brutal. 1 slash. Final. Absolute. Marcus's body hit the ground and didn't move. The blood moon reached its peak overhead, bathing the clearing in crimson light. The mate bond, incomplete until now, snapped into place between Vera and Noah with an audible crack of power. Golden light wrapped around them both, visible to every wolf present, binding them together in ways that transcended flesh and bone. Every werewolf in the clearing felt it, the surge of power, the completion of something ancient and right. This was a true alpha-omega pairing, the kind spoken of in legends. Pack law recognized it automatically. Challenge answered. Coup ended. The Northern Territories had their king and queen. Vera's legs buckled. The transformation had taken everything. Noah caught her before she hit the ground, cradling her against his chest as his own wolf rumbled contentment. Luna wriggled free from Dr. Sable's arms and ran to them on unsteady toddler legs.
Mama. Papa.
Her voice rang clear and joyful, second and third words spoken in front of hundreds of witnesses. She threw her small arms around both of them, pressing her face against Vera's shoulder. Home. Go home. A full sentence. After 731 days of silence, Luna was finally speaking. Noah pulled both of them close, and Vera's head fell against his shoulder as exhaustion claimed her. Around them, the pack began to howl, not in challenge, but in approval. The sound rose to the blood moon, primal and beautiful, the song of a pack united under their true rulers. The ceremony was complete. The family was whole. And under the crimson light of the blood moon, the Alpha King, the Omega Queen, and their daughter, who had brought them together, were finally, impossibly home. 6 months had transformed the Blackwood estate from fortress to home. Gardens bloomed where there had once been only strategic sightlines. Children's laughter echoed through halls that had known only silence and strategy. The stone walls still stood imposing and ancient, but now warmth radiated from within. Fires in every hearth, music drifting from open windows, the scent of bread baking in kitchens that had once prepared meals like military rations. Today, the formal coronation ceremony drew thousands of wolves from all 12 territories and beyond. They gathered not out of obligation, but genuine reverence. Vera stood before the assembled packs in robes of silver and white, a crown of moonstone and diamonds resting on her braided hair. She was fully into her Omega power now, healer, counselor, the balance to Noah's dominance. Since the blood moon, interpack conflicts that had simmered for decades had simply ended. Alphas who once would have torn each other apart now sought Noah's counsel and Vera's healing, their territories thriving under the united leadership. Noah stood beside her in black, their hands joined, the mate bond visible as a faint golden shimmer where their skin touched. And between them, wearing a tiny crown woven with flowers, stood Luna. The child had transformed as dramatically as the estate. She spoke in full sentences now, chattering constantly about flowers and rabbits and the fireflies in the garden. But more remarkably, she was showing signs of inheriting both bloodlines, Alpha and Omega combined. Just yesterday, she'd shifted partially for the first time, golden curls sprouting gold-tipped wolf ears while the rest of her remained human. When the cook had burned her hand, Luna had touched the wound and it had healed, leaving the woman in tears of gratitude. Vera's memories had returned completely over these months, fragments assembling into a full picture. She'd been from a smaller pack, thought to be an ordinary wolf, never suspecting her Omega heritage. The pregnancy had triggered dormant abilities that Marcus had somehow sensed, setting his conspiracy in motion before Noah had ever met her. The pack's oath rose like thunder, thousands of voices howling allegiance that shook the trees and sent birds scattering into the sky. When silence fell, Vera spoke, her voice carrying across the crowd. I was lost. My daughter was stolen. My memories were taken. But I found my way home. She looked down at Luna, then at Noah. We all can. Family isn't just blood. It's choice, protection, and love that never breaks. That's what makes a pack. That's what makes us strong. The ceremony ended as the sun began its descent, painting the sky in golds and crimsons. Later, in the privacy of the estate gardens, Noah and Vera watched Luna chase fireflies through the twilight, her giggles pure and uninhibited. She'd insisted on bringing her velvet rabbit, the same worn toy she'd clutched that first night at Moonstone. Do you ever regret it? Noah asked quietly, his arm around Vera's waist. The pain of those 2 years? Vera leaned into him, their bond humming contentedly between them. I regret the time stolen, but without that journey, I wouldn't have found my strength. Our daughter wouldn't have found her voice. And you, she turned to face him, you wouldn't have learned to trust your heart. Noah pulled her close, pressing his forehead to hers. You are my heart. Both of you.
Mama. Papa.
Look. Luna ran back to them, holding up a white flower that glowed faintly in the gathering dark, moonflower, blooming just as evening fell. They knelt together in the grass, and Luna placed the flower carefully in Vera's hair, then kissed both their cheeks with the unself-conscious affection of a child who had never doubted she was loved. The three of them stayed there as sunset deepened to dusk, 3 silhouettes against the golden light, finally complete. They had tried to erase her. They had tried to silence her daughter. They had tried to break him. But true bonds can't be severed. They can only grow stronger. This was the story of the Alpha King, the Omega Queen, and the princess who brought them together with 2 words that changed everything. My mama. Blood doesn't make a family. Love does. And nothing is more powerful than a mother's love, except a mother's love combined with a father's protection and a child's unbreakable spirit. If you enjoyed the story and want more like it, please like the video, drop a comment, and subscribe to the channel. Your support truly means the world to me and helps this channel grow. Thank you for being here.